All right, well, welcome to Small Towns Unscripted, guys. Grant and Anita Nesvacil. This is Nicole Turner. I'm Russ McClellan. I really appreciate you joining us. This is a lot of fun, and this is probably the coolest location right in your shop, Grant. And I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but we got an old car sitting up there that looks like something you've been working on a while.
Actually, that's my driver.
Wow.
I've got it in here. I'm putting power steering in it.
Now, what is it exactly? It's cherry red looking.
It's a 57 Buick.
Nice. Well, that you were telling me about, just like a lot of people, you guys have an adopted reach. A lot of kids, a lot of
We've
friends.
Had a lot live with us over the years, yeah.
Yeah, and I know Troy was pretty close to my age. I think he was that's your youngest son, and then Travis is a couple years older.
Yeah.
Troy, so he was 86, I think, and I graduated in 87. So I've known that whole group of guys since high school, so that's kind of neat that you guys have.
Did you go to school in Chelan?
I went to Manson.
Yeah, I thought you did.
Yeah, my kids were the first traders they were fifth generation from here, and they were the first Chelan goats, so I always give them a bad time.
Are they a trader if you're the one that put them in that school, or are you the trader?
I don't know, I just try to diminish their character.
Well, I'm an old goat, so.
Yeah. Well, let me get back to this 57 Buick, because I was commenting, and the girls that you knew that we had on from the class of 62, I was telling them my mom always knew old cars, like, oh, that's a 56 or that's a 48, and then they go, oh, we all do. And I was like, there's something very interesting about that growing up in the 50s and 60s that I don't know if people are like that as much now.
Well, you can't tell a difference in a car today. One car looks identical to the other. If you're driving a Subaru, or if you're driving a Ford, what you call it, or anything, Buick, they all look exactly the same.
Right.
And so no, the average person cannot distinguish them. I have a hell of a time distinguishing them. And when I grew up, I could tell you every damn car that was on the road by just looking at the grill.
Yeah, and there's the fenders, the grills, the rounded corners, the square corners, the tails.
Yeah.
My mom, I was always thinking my dad, but my dad was always on a tractor, so I don't know if he had enough time to.
He probably could tell you what tractors look like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is really a cool spot, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
I'm almost giddy because I just this podcast of ours, you've been able to watch a couple, I think, but it's all about kind of bridging people and helping people get to know each other instead of each other. Mm-hmm. And I think in a small town, we often know of each other, but maybe we haven't had time to sit down and have a cup of coffee.
That's so-and-so's grandfather. That's so-and-so's big brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this ain't a small town anymore.
No.
Compared to when I moved here in 65.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So when you go back in time, you guys have been married, congratulations, 60 years?
Yeah.
Well, in January.
In January. That's quite an accomplishment.
She'd been married 60 years. I've only been married 10.
You come in and out.
Took me a while to raise him.
You got to raise him? Yeah. My wife says the same thing.
She always told everybody that she raised 3 kids, Travis, Troy, and Grant.
Well,
that's a good statement.
We were pretty young when we got married, so.
Yeah, before we go back to the beginning, because I want to know the history of your family, but what's the key to staying married 60 years?
Minding your wife.
Getting trained? That makes sense.
Perseverance. Just hanging in there. Hanging in there, yeah.
There's no easy thing about any relationship for a long time, is there? Nothing easy. Like, it takes work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it does.
You don't always agree on everything?
Oh, no, I agree with everything she says.
I love how she immediately goes, no. He goes, yeah, I do.
I've been married 3 the second time, and I tell my wife, I said, well, you met me at the right time because it took me 30 years to just learn to do what women tell me.
He still resists it, from what I hear. But
now I have my sister work with me, and Nicole's working with me, and my wife's, they're all telling me what to do. I'm getting there. I'm just slow learner. So let's go back in time. Where did your folks come from? A lot of people came from the Midwest, but I'm curious.
They were Okies.
Okies.
A lot of them were Okies.
Yeah.
Dad was born in Ohio, but he was raised in Oklahoma. And how we came to Washington was my uncle, Lance, and he flew the Confederate flag over his house up the street here when he was here. But he and his wife and children were traveling, going to look for work somewhere out west, out of Oklahoma, and their car broke down, and a family by the name of Kibbe had a store in Lakeside, Washington.
Yeah, by my office there, right?
Yeah, and so they told him to come up to Washington, to Chelan with us, because they helped him get his car on the road, by the way, and they said there was work at Holden up at the mine. So they came here, and he stayed long enough to build a house that is over in South Chelan there.
What year would that have been, you think, approximately?
Oh, I don't know. It had to be in the 30s, early 30s, because Dad and another brother came out to visit him because he told them how beautiful it was here, and they after leaving Dust Bowl and Oklahoma, they came out here in the fall, and the orchards were full of apples, and the air smelled good, and everything was green and lush, and he thought he'd hit God's country. So they got jobs picking apples down at Beebe, and when they got through, they drove back to Oklahoma, and he married Mom, and he took her back to her grandmother's house after they got married. Her grandmother raised her, and I'm told that Grandma Jenny wasn't the nicest grandma, so I'm glad I didn't ever meet her.
That's funny.
But he came by the house a week later with this old, I don't remember what it was, but he had a big trunk tied on the back end. And he said, "You going to Washington with me? I'm moving up there." And she said, "Oh yeah." He said, opened the trunk, said, "Put your junk in here and let's go."
He opened the trunk and said, "Get in."
Yeah, right. She might have said,
"You get in." No, she did have to ride in the rumble seat part of the way because one of my uncles was with him and he complained about riding in the rain, so she let him get in the front. She rode in the rain. I remember her telling me that.
So you guys must have met out here.
Yep.
And did you come around? When did your family come?
Well, I was born in Wisconsin.
Okay.
Moved to Montana when I was about 1 or so, and grew up there and went to school there. And
now Montana's booming.
Then moved out here. Yeah.
It
Well,
is.
when I moved up from Montana, it was like moving to Chelan in '65. Because I moved here in '65, but I was working on Yellowtail Dam in '64, and then. I don't know why I quit that job, but I like to travel. I like to go places. And I heard that they were hiring out here in Wells Dam. So I spent quite a while at Yellowtail. And then my foreman at Yellowtail wanted me to stay. He said, "Grant," he said, "you stay," and he said, "you go to the next job with me and right on down." I probably should have done that, but I didn't. Anyway.
So you're in '65. You came here.
So in '65, I come out here, and the union out of Wenatchee was hiring for Wells Dam. So I went out to work at Wells Dam, and that's how I ended up out here. But I remember when I first drove in here from Wenatchee, there wasn't anything on that side of the river or the lake at all. And there was no homes between here and Wenatchee to speak of. There was a lot of orchard stuff, but not like it is today. And but I really remember looking over there on the other side there, and it was all orchard.
Yeah.
Now it's all
lights.
Now it's all Hooverville or whatever they want to call that.
Yeah, it's changed.
Contamination up there on the hill there.
You know, my mom was pretty special person, right? Very sweet. You didn't know her maybe as well as some, but you said that you always liked to go to her at the bank.
Oh, yeah.
Well, she was always just, pretty goody two-shoes kind of person, right? Like G-rated. And then one day, going by Wells Dam, and this is when she had dementia, by the way. So when you have dementia, sometimes...
You're unfiltered?
Sometimes you get a little unfiltered. So, sometimes it gets really bad, and it's hard for people. My mom was still super, super sweet. But when we're driving by on the way to Pateras, she goes, Wells Dam, you know what they say about Wells Dam? And going to Pateras. And I go, "No, Mom, what do they say about Wells Dam going to Pateras?" She goes, "Might as well Pateras."
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
that
right.
My dad used to
I know.
Yeah,
I said, "What'd you say, Mom?"
my dad
Because
said
it was
the same
Aswell Dam.
Yeah.
Like, might as well pat her ass. I'm like,
yeah,
Mom.
yeah.
cracks me up.
I've heard that pat back and ass well,
Oh yeah.
you know, quite a
It-
few times.
So then did you guys just meet and fall in love? 1965.
Well, my friends and I were home from college for the summer, and we were all dating dam workers. So I
Did you
can
say
think of-
those
I
damn
know,
workers?
I know of 3 of us that
There was
snagged
another
one.
word in front of that.
Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah. But we're going to keep it as just dam workers today.
That's right. So you met each other in a kind of a. Those girls are dating those boys. And,
I met her
Yeah.
right across the street at Mel's Cafe.
do you remember
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, my niece Jill Burberry, you know.
Oh yeah, Jill
or-
and
yeah,
Jim.
well, she's my niece.
Yeah.
Well, she was just little, and Mom and I lived in the house next door here, and we walked over to take Jill to get her some ice cream, and she was standing up in the booth, and she kept patting Brad on the shoulder and the back of us, and saying hi, 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 and he was talking to her, and he and I made eye contact, and when we left, I made sure he saw me walk across the street with that little girl, and I played with her outside until I saw Grant coming over, and then I gave her to Mom. We went to the movies.
And then he asked you to go to the movie. Is that the Ruby?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's been here a long time.
yeah.
Love at first sight.
No.
No, it wasn't actually, but
It worked out.
yeah, it
60
worked
years
out.
later.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. So and your dad, I always wondered this, and I didn't really know this, that Al's Radiator was
My dad.
your dad, Al Marcier, and then was your grandfather named Al Marcier?
No, my brother was Al Marcier.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Your brother was Al Marcier, and your dad was Al Marcier.
Yeah, yeah.
So I knew Brent pretty well. He was about my age
Oh
growing
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Um,
My only nephew.
yeah. So then you had that operation, and when you guys got together, what year did you come to work? You went from the dam. When did you start working on equipment or cars?
Well, I
Tractors?
followed construction till 1970.
Okay.
I worked at Mossy Rock, and I worked in Seattle on high rises and stuff like that.
I bet you
hated-
love Seattle.
Oh, I hated it. Oh,
So did you guys live over there for a while, or you
Yeah,
just
we lived-
commuted?
It was almost 2 years there.
So
Boy,
you were
was a
following the
baby.
union work?
Yeah, pretty much following union work and stuff like that. And
Well, those were great jobs back then.
worked all over the place. Well, you know, it was a great work, but you know, one of the real reasons I kind of got out of it is because every time I got money saved up, which I'm kind of a saver, and I would put enough money away because I knew I'd be out of jobs in unions.
Yeah.
Because somebody's always going on strike. So I always had enough money to pay rent and live for a month or so while I didn't care if I went to work, if it was union or not. When I was out of work, I was out there hitting the streets. I went to work in
Tell 'em about
Lockheed Shipyard, you know, putting insulation in ships even
Wow.
between jobs. And boy, what a miserable job that was.
Yeah, you knew you didn't want to do insulation the rest of your life.
But
Tell them about digging the hole.
oh yeah, when I first moved back here when we moved back in 1970. In fact, I started this shop in 70, and so I was working here in the evenings, and I was working down at Blue Chelan. I worked on the tilt-ups and stuff down there, and I worked in the sheds, you know, and in the cold room, and and this and that. And then I was out of work one time, and I went to work for Ingram, but not Kelly Ingram Bunch, but another Ingram that lived out here, and he was digging a well, and there was a guy working across the street at the Texaco station named Dale. And Dale was a hot rodder. They had a 34 International pickup, and of course I had my 44 and stuff like that. So Ingram, I can't remember his first name, but he was in Orchards out here. They were digging a well and by hand, and so Dale and I went to work out there. It was $5 an hour, and so I was a small guy. Dale was a big guy. And so he run the tractor and the bucket and everything, and I'm going up and down and I'm doing all the digging and everything like that. I'm 80 feet in the ground.
By hand, but with a
I'm
tractor.
80 feet in the ground looking up, and I yanked on the cord one day, and I said, Dale, bring me up. He brought me up. I said, we're done.
How did that work?
I'm so confused. How?
How what?
How do you dig a well 80 feet with tractors? Buckets?
No, yeah, with a bucket. I'm down the hole digging by hand.
And he's filling up the bucket.
And I'm filling up the bucket. And then we're pouring, and then we're sliding round casing down.
Oh
So-
my gosh.
So we're in a 3 or 4 foot round casing, and I'm down there, and my feet are starting to get wet, and I looked up, and at 85 feet, the top of the hole looked about the size of my thumb, and I'm not what
Claustrophobic.
but I looked up there and I thought to myself,
I'm done.
I'm done,
Yeah.
and up I come, and that was the end of that. That was the end of that job.
I'm getting anxiety as we talk about it.
But I was used to working high. I mean, I worked all my dam work. Most of it was high, like 200-300 feet in the air.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, a lot of guys, my mom's brother, my grandma Daisy's brother, we called him Uncle Shorty. He worked at Grand Coulee Dam, building that for 45 years.
Right.
And there was a lot of guys die.
Oh, a lot of even where I worked.
Really?
I don't remember anybody out at Wells, but I know at Yellowtail, we're 200 and some feet in the air, and I'm working high off of safety belt and rope and steel forms, and there was I never saw it myself, but there have been some deaths out there, because if you fell, you got to remember, if you fell, you had a work belt on that weighed probably 30-40 pounds. You had work boots on. You had a hard hat. You had all that. You just go straight down. I mean, you ain't got no chance.
And a lot of those guys, they said at Grand Coulee, are still buried. They're buried in.
That's a bunch of bull.
That's BS.
That's a bunch of bull.
So they'd get the bodies out.
Yeah. You cannot have a.
As a kid, I heard that.
Yeah, I know that. That's always been the story about it.
Oh, but they don't actually do that?
No, because that would leave a void in the concrete.
Oh,
organic.
and it would
That makes
obviously
sense. Logical.
deteriorate and then ruin the structure of the concrete, right?
It was
Well,
probably those guys.
it would leave a void in the concrete, and then that's a weak spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got 300 feet of water behind a dam. Like
You can't have a weak spot.
you can't have.
That's probably those guys like my Uncle Shorty, just trying to make it sound like.
I've literally thought that
Stay
every
in
time
school,
I
kid.
drive by a dam, I'm like,
Yeah, some of them.
Now I'm
are,
not. Now don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that back in the 20s and the 30s when they first built one, if somebody fell in that they didn't leave. I don't know that for a fact.
Right.
But I know after they wouldn't allow that.
yeah.
You couldn't leave anybody in there.
So did you have a thing for cars since your dad was in the Radiator?
No.
You didn't.
No. I was always embarrassed because he had old cars to drive. He had an old Buick, and I wanted to drive ride in a nice, modern, pretty car.
Oh, of
The
course.
guy took me to the prom, and he got his stepfather's old car. He thought it would be such a treat for me. I was so disappointed, but I didn't say anything.
Yeah. Well, you were telling me you know a lot of cars too, though. Yeah, you probably between your dad and Grant,
yeah.
you got to know all the
one
old
reason
cars.
that I was attracted to Grant is because he had a '57 Buick, and it was
I had old.
old, and it was baby blue and white, and I just loved it.
Oh, boy.
And I'd see it over there all the time. I really liked it.
There you go. See, for your young lads that
I
want
wish
to
I
get the
had-
girls.
I should have painted it black.
Baby blue, baby. You're a sensitive young man. That's what you meant by that. I see that in you. You're a sensitive guy. No, I think, Grant, you're one of the nicer guys. We don't know each other that well, but you've always treated my dad right, and you've always been nice. And I think sometimes when people are quiet, when they first get to know you, they don't know that about you. So this is good. You'll have, if you wanted to come out of retirement after this podcast, we'll probably get you.
I've had a lot of people tell me that when they first meet me that I come across as a real grouch, and then
You're not, though. You're
then
not.
a real
He does
asshole.
have a nickname.
What's his nickname?
His grandchildren call him Grumpy.
Grumpy? There you go.
But anyway,
That's good for grandpas to be grumpy because that
it
teaches
is,
them
it is,
discipline.
It is. But,
Yeah. And then in 1970, right here in this shot,
yeah, It wasn't like this when I started. It was all block and the seam was open, and I put hundreds of thousands of dollars in this place. When you walked out the back door there, as soon as you left the back door, you went straight down to the alley. I probably put 40,000 yards of filled dirt from my rental house there to my third rental house down here.
That's you have quite a stretch here going.
That's all fill, you know,
and one load of dirt that got dumped, somebody had used in their yard, and next spring we had all kinds of tulips and daffodils all down the hill.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And we still have them once in a while.
Oh yeah, there's still some growing down.
One of our renters went down and robbed it and put them in his yard.
Yeah, Joe here.
I know Joe Parker.
Yeah, he's down there getting flowers. And he keeps a real nice yard and stuff.
He knows a lot about refrigeration, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he fixes our air conditioners. Every summer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. That's a good person to have.
I'll tell you what, it's getting to be where mechanics, technicians, plumbers, electricians, they're like the doctors of today because they're harder and harder to find.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't find, well, first of all, you can't find a general mechanic like I was, where I could do everything except electronics. I never got into that, and I never cared for it. But I did, well, you see my sign out front there. I mean, I did radiators, I did automobiles, engine rebuilds, I did coring, I did transmissions, I did everything. And that's the way a mechanic did it back in them years. Now it's specialized. I mean,
when did the automobile change to where the computers took over the car?
Actually, they started in about 1980.
Really, that far back?
Yeah. It started changing. I was lucky enough that there was enough mechanical work, I call hard mechanical work, to last up until, well, I basically closed my shop about 3 years ago, as far as driving and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I still, the only reason I'm here is to work on my cars, and I'm damn near 80 years old, and I got 6 cars.
How old are you?
I'm 79. And I got.
Man, you look good, dude.
I got 6 cars to build yet. And I don't know.
You look good.
He's down here 7 days a week.
Well, you're like Jerry. Cool. Jerry Eisenhart and you and a lot of guys. My dad, they just worked. Jerry's, I had him on the podcast, because he was the original media guy, and he's been real helpful to me. But he's like, they told me 10 years ago I had 3 years to live, and I'll tell you what, I got way too many businesses to open.
Yeah.
And you got way too many cars to build.
I got too much stuff to do,
Well, what's of all the cars that you own or that you've wanted to own, what's the favorite car for Grant?
Well, the favorite car I have right now is sitting in my garage at home in a million pieces. That's the one I bought in 1968 out of Whitefish, Montana. And my kids were pretty much raised in it. From the time they were infants till they quit wanting to go to the car shows with Dad's mom.
What is it?
68.
40 Ford sedan, 2-door sedan. And
he was so good at loading that thing up when we'd go to car shows. We had a tent.
There's Joe.
Yep.
And he put all the sleeping bags on the floorboards so the kids could roll around the back seat and not fall on the floor. They would fall on the sleeping bags. And all our clothes, we had 2 coolers, one for the beer and one for the food. And then clothes were in a brown paper bag, and they were stuffed wherever he could stuff them. He was always so good at it.
Are you taking it apart to put it all back together?
Well, I took it apart to rebuild it on the 3rd rebuild. I've had it apart and redone it twice. But this time I did took it all the way off the frame and everything.
Wow.
So how did you learn all the ins and outs of
I don't know. I have no idea.
Question.
I guess I just was born to gearhead.
Oh, okay.
I had my first car when I was 10 years old. I bought a 37. I didn't buy it. I traded my watch for a 37 Hudson Terraplane. My parents figured I'd be all summer getting that thing running. They go to town and I come home and I'm driving it.
Surprise.
And they're shaking their head.
I don't need to know what time it is. I got a son.
But anyway, I've always been a gearhead, and I've always had cars. I wrecked every car my parents owned. I wrecked.
Really?
Oh, his
like to
mother
drive
told
fast?
me about that.
Oh, I like to drive. Montana had no speed limit, see.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I
so,
mean, still now, if you're on the freeway, you're like 80, 90 miles per
so
hour.
she
It's
was
typical.
scared to death when we first got married in my 57. I'm going, it's wintertime, and I'm going down the road, and I'm running about 100 miles an hour, and it's glare ice out, you know, and she's screaming, "Ah!"
In a baby blue car.
Anyway,
Yeah,
no,
yeah. I thought he was
Joe.
trying to kill me.
yeah, so I just always been a gearhead.
It's rent day.
Well,
I've had all kinds of cars.
so the business side of it, you got into radiators and the farmers. You've helped countless farmers with their tractors, I would imagine,
yeah.
and their trucks. And what's that been like to, back in the 1970, for a long time, farming was strong and a lot of small farmers.
Yeah.
That must have been kind of gratifying to know that everybody, because everybody, I remember growing up as a kid, you probably saw me growing up a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
My dad and mom came back in 1969, so right before when I was born in 69. But, he always told me, you can count on Grant's work and you can count on Grant's word.
Well, the thing is a lot of the people liked me because I was one of them guys that if they needed the job done, I would stay to midnight to finish it.
You did.
You know?
And sometimes farming, that's thousands of dollars on
and
them.
and that's exactly right. So they'd have a breakdown or something like that. I remember back in the 70s, we used to go out in the field. My father and I would go out in the field and stuff, and I'd go out in the field and do repairs in the field and stuff. Well, I kind of got so busy in the shop that I couldn't do that anymore. So but basically, yeah, Omar Pebbles, he had the milk route,
Okay.
and God, I don't know how many nights I worked on his international to get it running so they could get out in the morning at 5 o'clock. Jesus.
Bet you had those farmers, you ever go, would you lay off the clutch? Or something like, the way they were driving it, just bringing it back. Like, you guys, it's not the equipment, it's how you're driving it that's the problem.
Well, a lot of it was, and I got on to, and that's where I got that kind of the rough texture because I had no problem telling people, about their driving habits and and stuff like that. But of all the damn people that I've worked for, I'll bet you there ain't 2% that weren't good people. And I'm sorry to say that, but most of that was people from the coast that come over on the holidays.
Yeah, entitled.
I could tell you horror stories of people that come over on the holidays.
Oh.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that with the people that are from here, and have been here when it watch. It's grown a lot, obviously, the last 35 years that I've been in real estate. I'm part of the problem, I guess. So that kind of brings some of those people here. But there's a lot of good people too. But there are
There
those.
is, and that's the whole thing. Is you get mad at, but like I say, maybe 2% of the people that come over here to the coast are jerks.
Yeah, and that's just life, right? Everybody
But
has
that's
that.
life,
Yep.
There's a few jerks that live around here too.
Yeah.
There's a couple grumpy dudes.
Just the statistics of life.
So
It
you
is,
guys,
it is.
Yep.
Uh,
More people, more problems.
Yeah.
Yep.
The first year I started this thing, I worked in sheds, and I worked here at night.
Yeah,
And-
my dad had a stroke.
Oh,
And
how old was he? Do you think when he had a stroke?
He was 62, I think.
Oh, young.
And he couldn't do the work out here anymore. And so he was showing Grant how to fix radiators. And he only had use of one hand. He burned it real bad one time. Mother banned him from the shop. But he came out and kind of coached Grant along on.
He didn't coach me. He took a hammer and beat it in your head what to do.
But he built this place.
Yeah, he built this whole place.
He came home every night after work at Ramsey and Pitts, and he had a form, probably in here somewhere, and he would grind up his old cement mixer, and he would pour so many blocks
Because
every
it's a
night.
concrete block exterior.
Every one of them was handmade
Wow.
by him.
Oh,
And
wow.
then his brother who lived a block up the street. He had the only body and fender shop in town, and he would walk down and they would lay the bricks on the weekend that he'd done all week. And that's how they built this.
Yeah, when
Wow.
people say they work 20 hours a day, they weren't lying. Like,
No.
Yeah.
that was
I
normal.
work 20 hours a day, a lot of days.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. I
and
mean,
and I did that since I was a kid. When I was in school, I worked at Potter Mills, Potter's plywood mill, and I'd get out of school at 3, 4 o'clock, something like that, and I'd go to work at Potter's at 4:30 or 5, and work till midnight in the plywood plant. You know?
yeah, you mentioned you worked tilt-ups for when you were building the warehouses.
Yeah.
I did that one summer. That's quite a process. I
Yeah.
had no idea where they pour big concrete slabs for the warehouses, and then they use cranes basically, and they tilt up this big giant slab, and then they put it all together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that one big warehouse down there in Chelan Falls, behind BB's down there.
yeah, I did the one
I
that's
was
on the
on
other
that.
side of the river when I was like 1985, 86. And there were some characters on those jobs, boy. A lot of guys were in the need for work, so the company was Bethlehem at the time, I think Bethlehem Construction, and everybody'd show up and they go, hey, I'm a welder. Hey, I'm a forklift operator. And then pretty soon you realize they're actually not forklift operators. One time the guy lifted up the supports because he couldn't get the plywood, fully extended boom, and just thought he'd drive the truck with a fully extended boom and that whole thing, and the sheets of plywood started flying at us. I just ducked for cover, and I told my dad, I think I'm going back to school and come play some more basketball or something.
Yeah.
This is dangerous work out here. These guys are crazy.
Yeah.
But, you just worked, right? And that's the same. I mean, that's
Well,
the
you
common
did what you had to
denominator.
do to make a living, and that's
Yep.
the way it was with me all the time.
Anita, when your dad was working all the time, building this day and night, working, and what was your mom doing? What was she like?
Well, she stay at home for a long time, and then she started work over at the Bluebird Cafe across the street, and as a waitress, and she eventually she worked at the Apple. They built the Apple Cup when I was a little girl. I watched them build it. It used to be built 66 service station there, and a little building next door that was called the Snack Shack, and it had I think there were like 6 bar stools around it, and 4 booths or something.
The Bluebird Cafe.
And that was
That's-
right-
That was a snack shack. The Bluebird was across the street.
Across the street. The
and it
first
was
time I heard about the Bluebird was last week with Sue.
Sue Baker, yeah.
Yeah, she mentioned it, and I haven't heard anybody talk about the Bluebird.
Well, her mother and mine worked together for years.
Oh, cool.
That must have been before my time, because when I come here, it was Nell's Cafe.
Yeah, it was sold, and it became Nell's Cafe then,
Okay.
and that's where I met Grant, of course.
Sue talked about Hughes Steakhouse, which
Yeah.
turned into
Yeah.
Uncle Bub's
Right?
And
Yeah.
turned into Savatos.
and
So then,
Savatos.
was
yeah.
your mom then a cook as well, or
She became a cook. Yes.
she became a cook? Oh.
Yeah. She worked in the Bungalow Cafe, which was the bottom of Campbell's, where there was a restaurant called the Bungalow then, and I remember my senior year of high school, we had an all-night party, and she went to work. She went down that morning and fixed breakfast for all the seniors.
Oh, cool.
Do you remember the cowboy? Were you around here with that cowboy that drove his horse from the
Oh yeah, yeah.
and tie his horse
Yeah,
up on the
Roy.
maple tree every day
Yeah.
and then come down for dinner?
Roy Mathers. Oh yeah,
What was his name?
Roy.
Roy Mathers.
In fact,
I knew a Lyle Mathers.
but that was his brother.
Oh.
But he had a little up by the football field. That was at one time an orchard where the football field is.
Yeah, George Schultz.
And across from it was he had a stable, and then above it he had a little pasture across the street from there, right where that big metal building is now. And so we'd go up to my uncle's and with his girls, and we'd walk down and visit with Roy. And he put me on my first horse down there. It was he had Pal and Moon, 2 trick horses he used to take to rodeos, and they did tricks. And he set me up on Moon, and it's a long ways down to the ground, I thought. But he eventually took us on little trail rides. Mom would give him $10, and he'd take us, saddle up the horses, and we'd go around up on the hill up there, and he'd bring us back.
Well, I think my dad would have been happy if we never went to anything but horses growing up. those are good times, I bet, for those guys. And it probably was just as hard for them to watch back in the early 1900s, you know.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Just a hard, like you're talking about cars changing. And, you know, the thing about change is it's inevitable, right? Like, it's just how do we manage it, or which part do we want to deal with?
It is.
Yeah.
You told me, if you said you had a funny story about my dad. I'm curious what that would be.
Well, your dad brought his green truck into me one time.
1977.
The one that you still have?
Yeah, it's at my office.
77 Ford, and he, did some work on it for him. I can't remember what it was, but he come to pick it up, and I wouldn't let him take it. And he said, well, why not? I said, because this is a wreck waiting to happen. What do you mean? I said, the steering is so bad in this thing. I said, when I went out and drove it, I said, the steering wheel turns 90 degrees each direction before it ever makes before you even turn the wheel.
Gotta be coordinated to drive that one.
So I said, you ain't taking it till I fix it.
That's hilarious.
And then you fixed it, and he said,
Well, anyway, the rag joint in the steering column was completely gone. And all it had was 2 pins.
Holding it together.
I can show you right there. I'm doing one right there. It had 2 pins in it, and the pins got slots that they fit through. Well, he had to turn it till that pins hit them slots. Anyway, I put a new rag joint and everything in it, and then he picks it up, and he comes back later on. He says, I don't know what you did to that truck. He said, but I can't keep it on the road. I said, yeah.
Too sensitive now.
I said, yeah, Don. I said, and I know exactly what you're doing. I said, you're driving it like this, aren't you? I said, and now it's so positive, it's turning every time you touch it. Well, yeah. I said, well, you'll get used to it in a little while.
Imagine that. When it turns the steering wheel, the car turns.
Yeah.
Weird.
You'll get used to it in a little while.
That's funny.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I still remember that to this day.
Yeah, it's a 2-wheel drive, but he said it had a 1-ton chassis in it. Whatever. What does that mean exactly?
Well, I don't know. In order to have a 1-ton chassis in it, it would have to have 3/4-ton wheels and stuff on it, which
That's
is
3/4-ton
which
truck.
is 8 lugs.
Yeah.
So if it's got 8 lug wheels on it, it probably has 3/4 or 1-ton chassis.
And then what was that? 351.
351
Windsor?
modified.
Is that a Windsor or Cleveland?
Modified.
Modified. He was proud of that engine.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad took good care of his stuff.
He did take that was a nice truck.
Yeah, still have it. My goal is I got that from him that I think he got around new somewhere close to it, and then I bought a truck in '96, a Dodge half-ton. So my goal is to drive the green one in the summer and the black 4x4 1996 Dodge in the winter.
Uh-huh.
That's my goal.
Yeah.
So I'm working towards fixing. That's why they're both in my office still. But
yeah, well, I redid my Ford pickup. That 75 I had,
mm-hmm.
and I did a frame off on it, complete.
Yeah, and you remember the '85 Ford that he had that he sold to Bill Sargent?
Yeah.
Funny story about that.
Yeah,
My
it's
mom
still sitting over there.
Yeah. Bill passed away. He's one of my best friends, but he was a good man. And so Bill has it at my house. I lived over on Chestnut, and my mom got in to move it, and she didn't put the brake on.
Oh, gosh.
And the next thing you know, the truck's on its side. And I'm like, Bill, are you driving crazy? And he goes, no, that was your mom driving crazy. And I'm like, oh, well, you can't let my mom behind the wheel. We called her Baja Patty for a reason. When I was going to school, she took all us kids to school in a Volkswagen Bug. And the kids in the back seat, they weren't Catholic, but they every time they'd get in the car, they'd be like, this is my mom who drove crazy. In the wintertime, that little Bug would just fly.
That's cute.
They're quite the pair. I always ask people what they thought of my parents and how well they knew them, because it's one of the things I'm glad we're doing this, because these stories that you're telling, your kids and grandkids and great grandkids that aren't even born yet will have some record of who you were. And so often, I had a friend of mine tell me once that history is often told through the ideas of politicians, and it's not always real. So the technology's out now where we can talk about real stuff.
Yeah.
And therefore, it came from the source.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I worked for a lot of farmers, I'll tell you that, over the years, and I mean a lot of them. And
I bet you saw the good times with them when they had money. They did some good stuff, got a little more to their truck, and then you probably had to also trickle down economics. You probably had to work with some of them.
Well,
in the bad times.
a lot of them, I've never had any of them take advantage of payments and stuff. You know, everyone that I ever worked for, my theory was, regardless if you was a farmer or Joe Blow off the street, if you walked in and said, hey, Grant, I need some work done on my truck, but I don't have any money, but I'll make payments on it, I will work with you. Because that's my option then, to do this. And it's my option. If you screw me, well, then that's my problem. But I also never would charge to a person if he brought his rig in, and when he went to pick it up, and he said, well, I don't have any money, I said, that's fine. The car will sit out there until you have money, because you're not taking it. If you'd have made arrangements ahead of time, that's one thing.
It's a good lesson for people.
But you never made arrangements, and I'm not open for credit.
You know, we have this in real estate a lot where somebody talks about leaving a refrigerator, for example. And if we don't talk about it, and someone assumed the refrigerator went with it, and then the seller took it, that was the most expensive refrigerator it could have been the worst refrigerator ever. But if we talk about it before, it's like, no big deal, you can have it or not. It's usually, we don't lose deals over refrigerators unless we don't talk about it.
Yeah, well, that's like my Reynolds houses, you know. Left all, you know, I always leave whatever refrigerator and stuff in there. And I tell them, I said, now this is on you. I said, you can have that refrigerator. I said, but if it goes out, I said, it's up to you to buy a new one, not me. I'm not supplying utensils in the house. But whatever's left here, I'll leave for you. And that's the way it is.
Straightforward business. Yeah. It's amazing how lost in translation little things like that have gotten. I mean, you know, we're dealing in 6-7 generations of people from all walks of life now in this town. It's quite a melting pot. Yeah. And most people are, to your earlier point, good people.
But you know, I've lost money on rentals. I've had people that have moved out and didn't pay their rent and stuff like that. But that's probably 1% of everybody I've rented to in the last, well, since I bought that, everything in the early 80s.
Yeah.
You know? No, you know, and of course my rent's reasonable. I feel that, you know, that most people around here, well, like Joe and Don and Trevor's down there and stuff like that, they're working for fairly minimum wages. I mean, Joe's on disability most of the time and stuff like that. But, you know, so I work with them and on that.
Well, did you create this assemblage of a house on either side over time to buy a house next door, or did that all come at this?
No, I bought everything at one time.
You did?
Oh.
Yeah. And
well, we inherited my parents' house in this shop.
Right, right.
So we had to pay my brother and sister each a third.
Yeah.
So they had the house.
This house?
Which one was the house you
That's
were?
the old White House next door I grew up in.
That's where you grew up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then Mrs. Bragg had the next two houses, and she worked at a different bank, I think.
Yeah.
Then she...
Harold Bragg, he had beautiful 53 Cadillac, green and yellow. God, it was a beautiful.
He knows people by their cars.
That's
It was
cute.
a beautiful car. And he kept it garaged all the time. Don Morris lived there with them too. They lived down at behind the car wash down there in that great big house.
Don Morris, like the Don Morris City Park that was
Yeah,
named
right.
after him?
Exactly,
Oh, yeah.
exactly.
I loved him.
Exactly. So anyway, what was I talking about?
The 57.
Harold Bragg.
Oh
and
yeah,
his
Harold.
car.
Harold. One time I said to Harold, I said, you know, if you ever decide to sell that your property down there, because I wanted this vacant lot next door, which wasn't a vacant lot then. It went straight down to the alley like everything else did
Oh,
here.
yeah.
So I said, if you ever decide to sell it, well, Harold got killed in a car wreck in Wenatchee. He was an old man. He went up the wrong one-way street the wrong direction. We got head on and killed. And God, that had to have been 15 years later or something like that. And I had just signed the papers on the shop here. We just made the financial and bought this shop and everything from my father-in-law.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden we hadn't even just the next day Mrs. Bragg had a realtor, and the realtor comes up and says to me, Grant, Mrs. Bragg told me that she's going to sell her houses down there, and he said that Harold said you had first choice.
Good for Harold.
I'm going, how did you remember? How in the hell did they remember that? I mean,
meant a lot to him, obviously.
So anyway, she said, and the guy said, now she's already got a buyer. He said, so you've got till the end of the week if you want it. So I run my butt right back down to old Greg Stafford. And I said, Greg, I told him the deal. He said, no problem, he said.
Mm-hmm. Was that when Greg was at Central?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, no problem. So I end up buying everything.
Because Greg and his crew started the North Cascades, I think, in 86, 87, somewhere in the mid-'80s.
Yeah, yeah.
And he used to be at Central Washington.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, Greg was a great guy.
He was a great guy.
I worked a lot. I did a lot of work for Greg on stuff. And
that was a great time in banking when those guys had the power.
He was a great guy, and he actually taught me a little bit about investing. When I first went in there to buy my property and everything like that, we sat down and hashed it all out, and so I asked him about a 25-year contract and a 20-year contract and this and that, and what kind of payments it would be, and what kind of interest rate, on and on and on and on. So anyway, we ended up on a 15-year contract, and and it was on a at that time it was a floating
adjustable rate.
Rate.
Yeah.
I said, I do not want a floating payment. I said, I want a stock one payment. I said, I want to know every month what that payment is. So at that time, interest rate was 10.5%. So we locked my my payment in at 12%. So I had a solid payment on everything.
What year was that about?
That was in 80. Oh, what about 80?
I don't remember, Grant.
Mid-80s.
Yeah.
Let's put the mid-80s. So anyway, the difference between a 15-year contract and 15-year contract, either a 20 or a 25 contract, was $95,000.
In interest, yeah.
And I said, well, okay. So the difference between a 15-year contract and a 20-year contract is $95,000 in interest. I said, what does that make a difference in payment? And he looks up, he said, $65 a month. I said,
wow.
I said, well, hell, I said, all I got to do is stay at a tavern one day a week.
There you
We
go.
laughed our ass off.
Yeah.
And so, anyway.
I still do that when someone says, hey, want to buy a house and they're $100 off. I go, these days, that's like 2 pizzas and a 6-pack.
There you go.
All you got to do is stop on that one Monday night football game and you'll be all right. You afford this house.
Yeah.
So anyway, I ended up buying the whole thing, and my interest rate never did go up to 12.5%. So I ended up paying it off in 2 years. So instead of 15 years, I paid it off in 13 years. And
You worked hard.
Good for you.
but I'm gonna tell you one thing right now. When I bought everything, I had to sub for all the payments on the rental house and stuff. I mean, my payment was more than the rents were bringing in. But after 2, 3, 4 years, pretty soon everything get caught up, and all caught up, and it was,
Now it's worth it.
and when I
We
was
have some good renters because they have reasonable rent. They're excellent because they know that they've got
It's
a
all-
good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always
It's
better
so
to find that
expensive right now.
tenant that'll pay the rent and give them a little discount versus trying to
But
get the
every-
premium.
And treat it like their own.
But it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
make any difference. Most of my renters were in there for 10, 12, maybe. Well, the one that's Tina down there, she's been in there since I bought the place. And that's been,
Many
since
years.
20. Well, her daughter's 30 years old,
Yeah.
so that
at
was
least.
30 years ago. She ran it for
Well,
me.
and we babysat her daughter free because she had to work weekends, and she was a single mom. So we took Alyssa. We took her on vacation with
Yeah.
us.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I love
that's-
those kind of stories.
That's kind of a segue. So tell me a little bit about all the kids that you've helped raise, grandkids or kids. Now, you told me a little bit about in the office that you had a sister that was tragically killed in a drunk driving accident.
Yeah,
right.
It was in 92.
But it seems like she had kids that you helped.
She had 2 daughters, but one was married and expecting her first baby, and then her sister was 10 years younger.
Okay.
And so she was about 13. She lost her dad when she was 10. So
She lost her dad
To
and
cancer.
her mom?
she lost her dad to cancer, and her mom to this drunk driver.
Wow.
The 19-year-old driver also died. They both died in flight to Harborview. So
Wow.
that was a hard thing for us to go through. My brother Al
Yeah.
Farcer and Sue and I went to Harborview to identify the body and then go tell her kids their mom was dead. So it was a
Wow.
hard time.
I bet it
That was another one of the deals where the kid had multiple DUIs,
Yeah.
didn't have a driver's license,
Yeah,
did
Mr.
not have, was not supposed to be driving, and he took his grandfather's car.
Just took it anyways.
Took his grandfather's car.
I always ask this when people, how can I put this? Everybody has gone through different things at different levels, right? A lot of tragedy out there that we had to overcome. Farther you go back, the more tragedy it seems, but it happens still to this day. After going through that experience, what would you say, what advice would you give to somebody else that has to deal with something like that, telling, kids and then...
Just be as loving as you can. Be as kind as you can.
Patience, maybe.
Okay, a lot of patience, yeah.
I imagine a 13-year-old, that's at a very formidable time in a young girl's life. I bet that was challenging.
She was at our house a lot. Even before then, her parents were busy. They were with Ray Dobbs and the Christian Businessmen's Association they had at the time. And so Jessica kind of grew up in our house. She...
We had
We had her.
multiple kids that kind of grew up at our house.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is that your house, the place that all the...
Grant even had a cousin from Wisconsin that
That
we'd
is correct.
gone to Wisconsin.
Jason, that guy that was just in here,
Yeah,
he
Jason.
spent a lot of time. He lived with us for quite a while.
They had a band, didn't they? I remember.
Oh yeah, Air Band.
Oh,
Yeah, I remember that. They
Oh,
were
yeah.
rock and rolling.
Troy
Yeah.
and Jason.
Troy
yeah.
and Jason, and there was a couple other guys that
Oh yeah, I found pictures of them, but I couldn't identify the other kids. They weren't my Cub Scouts.
We'll get Jason on the podcast. I'll dig deep, find out who was in that band, because I kind of remember those guys. Maybe Marty Wasson, was he in that band?
I think he
might
was.
have been. I don't
think
know.
he was.
They all had longer hair. And
Oh yeah,
That was
Troy
back
had
in the
long
day.
hair.
Both my kids had long hair. In fact, I think they were the first really long-haired kids in school, and it wasn't even that long,
Right.
Yeah, well, that's because they took after me.
Yeah, Brad had long hair.
When I first started this shop in 1970, my father-in-law said, "You'll never have any customers unless you cut your hair and cut your beard." My hair was down to my shoulders, and
Really?
my beard was about this long, and my hair was auburn, and my
It
beard
was bright red.
Well, that was kind of coming out of the 60s. That was pretty,
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to show you. I can do it.
And I told him, well, that's too bad. I said, if they can't take me for what I am, then I don't need them. And all his old customers, eventually, of course, I knew most of them because of Al, and because I'd come down the shop quite a bit,
Yeah.
And most of them knew me, and a couple of them were like, oh shoot,
Remember Lloyd Morton telling you he'd never come over here?
yeah,
Not going to take any work to a darn hippie.
yeah.
That was after Vietnam, right, in that era where there was a lot of disgruntled people on every side, right? Like,
Yeah.
because those, military guys are...
But all the old timers
Sure.
that Al had, you end up being my customers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are people, right, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I remember telling... my dad was kind of like probably your father, long hair. Luckily for me, that wouldn't have worked out very long because it all fell out. But I remember my kid had long hair, probably 7th, 8th grade, and I asked my mom, who he had my mom wrapped around his little finger because she was kind of like his, he was with her all the time. They were 5 years old when I got divorced, 10 and 5. But Grace and I raised them back and forth every week. But my mom and dad were kind of the rock between that. And he got his hair. He was staying at the city park and skating, and he started longer and longer hair. And my dad's giving me the evil eye, like, "What are you? You going to tell this kid what to do or what?" So finally, I said, "Mason, you got to get a haircut. Okay, you can't have this. You can't just keep growing your hair forever. It's down past your eyeballs. I mean, come on." He's like, all right. So he has my mom wrapped around his little finger. And he had crystal blue eyes, dark skin, black hair. He's a good-looking kid. He comes back from the barber shop, and I'm like, thought you were going to get a haircut. And he goes, I did. I looked at my mom, and she goes, well, we went there. And I go, what, did he have his split ends cut off? Because I can't tell the difference. So Mason, he was at that age where he's testing the boundaries a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, here's the deal, Mace. And I had already shaved my head by that time. And I said, well, we're going to go back to the barber with your grandma. And when you come back this next time, son, if I can't noticeably tell the difference, I can just promise you one thing, and I want you to look me straight in the eye. You're going to wake up and look a lot like me. So I'm going to duct tape you to your bed, and I'm going to shave your head. So you have two choices. I don't need a lot cut. But I tell my daughter now that she has a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they're already starting to find these. I said to my daughter, I go, the kid's job is to find out where the boundaries are. Your job is to set them and enforce them. And I used to use this joke. I go, I'm not your friend, kids. I'm your trainer.
Yeah.
So, because when I kick you out of here, and I don't know if it's right or wrong, but they turned out all right. My son's now in excavation. He went and got his real estate license just to show me he could. But I don't want to do that. I want to build the stuff. I want to be out in the dirt and working on equipment. And so he's working with excavation with Todd Corrigan.
With Todd Gordon?
Torgan, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's doing a good job.
I probably don't know who your son is, but...
Mason, yeah, I don't know if you know him, but he works with Tyler, Ty Miller, and
he's getting married this weekend.
Getting married out in Todd's pasture.
Okay, is Ryan?
Sergeant.
Ryan Sargent doing the
official
is marrying him.
Yeah.
Because Ryan was telling me that he was getting ordained.
Yeah.
He lives across the street from us.
Oh,
Yeah.
fun.
Well, his dad did it. His dad.
Yeah, his dad
married me and my wife. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, he was a good guy.
God,
Bill.
I love Bill. Yeah, Bill
He'd
and I.
see me back my car in the driveway, and he knew I had groceries, and he'd run over and carry them all in the house.
I wish you'd have got to meet him.
That.
When Ryan called me when that happened that morning, I couldn't even.
Yeah, we'd go places
Couldn't believe it.
and I'd come home, lawn to be watered, and the lawn to be mowed.
Yeah. I was trying to mow the lawn one day, and he came over. Oh no, let me do that for you, and he wouldn't let me finish. And I love to mow, and he went over to the front yard, did them both. I mean, he was such a neat guy. But I love the fact that he carried my groceries, and I thought of him yesterday when I was hauling them in.
We drive
so cute.
motorcycles quite a bit.
Oh yeah, he loved that until he got in that little fender. He wrecked his bike down in California or something, or Nevada.
Yeah, I can't remember where he was at when he wrecked it. I thought he had a place in Lake Havasu.
Yeah.
And I think that's down there where he got in the wreck.
Yeah. He was a hell of a dancer too. A lot of people don't know that about Twinkle Toes Bill.
Yeah.
Like formal, like ballroom
That's
style.
cute.
We heard he was dancing the night before he died.
Was he?
At the Eagles, yeah.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, good for him, man. He was one of my best friends.
Yeah, his golfer friends called me up. Wanted to know if I'd seen Bill. I said, no. Well, they called me the next day and said, well, because he'd had golfing. He was supposed to go golfing with them. Well, the next day, Sunday, he was supposed to go golfing also. And I said, no, well, would you go over and check and see if he's home? I said, well, his vehicles haven't moved. So I went over there and he got in the house and there he was dead.
You found him?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Wow.
Yeah. Was he in his bed?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
just
in
gone
bed.
to bed.
She
and-
must
yeah.
Melissa,
Graybill.
Melissa Reynolds?
Melissa and what the heck's his name? Lived down at the very end of the block there by the school. Anyway, they were good friends of his too, and they come up and we were looking for a key, and I said, oh, I reached up. I said, I think he got a hide key up here, and I found the hide key and went in and.
She must have just not been feeling well and then just laid down and.
Well, he went to bed that night.
He went to bed that
After
day.
dancing all night, he was tired. Just didn't
And I never knew there was a thing wrong with him. I mean, he was just as physically fit as.
Yeah, he was
could be.
doing a root ball in his yard, cutting it out.
Yeah.
I was just there a couple days, 3 days earlier, 4 days earlier.
So he was doing that early, and then he went dancing in the evening.
Yeah, he was a go-getter boy. He lived life. He was a good man. I miss him. I'm telling people.
I do too. I do miss him a lot. You know?
I told people on the last podcast, I said, my dad died and Bill died. I'm running out of people to help me bury the bodies. You don't have enough of those kind of friends, but those are good friends to have. Those are a couple of good men.
He was a good friend to us, that's for sure.
Well, so Ryan's marrying my son. That Todd's in his pasture. they're doing a big tent deal, and
Yeah, I heard that.
yeah.
And I told Ryan, I said, well, I'm not going to.
Give him. He's asking me to give him some advice. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it'll be good for Ryan. He's a good kid. They moved down. I did a development 3 miles south of the BB Bridge, an orchard that we bought from Doug Clearwater, and then it was all rocks and rattlesnakes, and so we ended up pulling out the trees and planting houses. That was my first development when I was in my 20s, and Bill had just moved here, and he bought one of the lots, and he was coaching football.
Okay, that's down about on the right hand
on the Douglas County
left-hand side, and he was built up on top.
Yep.
Yeah, he showed me where he.
So I had built the first house down there, and then I developed a four-lot short plat, and Bill came, and he said, yeah, this is a beautiful lot. And I said, but aren't you coaching at Manson? And he goes, yeah. And I go, you sure you want to buy here? Because this is Chelan, and I go, when I was in school, I don't know how that works. But he's like, oh, well, I don't care. This is a cool spot. So we got to be good friends because I was next door neighbors. But anyway, enough about poor Bill. God dang it. Love that guy.
Do you want to keep talking about, you asked her about the kids that you guys raised over the years? And
well, we
really only got
gosh, where did it start?
Sister.
Thank you.
Well, it started when Troy was in school and all his friends lived with us.
Well, Grant had his family's from Wisconsin, so we had taken our grandkids back to visit their great grandparents to meet them at the dairy farm, etc. And he had Grant's cousin had 3 boys, and they hung out with our kids and went fishing in the ditch and had a good time. But we told Randy he could come and visit us sometime, so he took the bus out one summer and spent 2 or 3 weeks with us, and then he took the bus home. And a week later, he's on our doorstep. He ran away from home.
Oh.
And I said, well, call your mom, tell her where you are. And we put him through high school. And
So he just left Wisconsin?
Wow.
He got on the bus.
I'm heading back there.
Yeah. And didn't tell his mom, didn't tell his parents,
no,
nobody.
He said it was more fun living with us than at that. Well, his dad had been an alcoholic, and he was a fireman. He fell down a flight of stairs and died, and so he had some stepfathers that weren't the greatest. And so he liked living with us a lot better.
Well, and Chelan's not bad. So
he got jobs. He bought his own seniors and stuff that he needed for high school, and eventually bought a car. But he always worked. He helped out. And when my sister moved here from Illinois, they lived with mom and dad, and it's only a 2-bedroom house over there. So their oldest daughter, she was about 10, she came and lived with us. And when Randy was living with us, and I remember Brad had built some bunk beds with a trundle for the 3 boys. And I was putting things away in the closet in the room, and I looked down, and in the bottom of the closet was a sleeping bag and a pillow and a little flashlight and a book. She wanted to be with the boys, so my niece moved in with the boys upstairs, and we let her, And we had her for several months, and because my brother-in-law was an attorney, and he needed to get his Washington state license to be an attorney because he was from Illinois. And so he worked at Campbell's and studied, and
that's cool.
So, and mom and dad took care of the rest of them. But and then my niece Jessica lived with us a couple times, and Brandy even gave her an old convertible to drive. She thought she was in her glory having that convertible to drive. God, she loved that thing.
64 Catalina.
And who else lived with us? Jason, of course, lived with us for a while, and
Ryan
Olson. He wanted to know if his mother had died, and his dad moved into a home for older people, and he couldn't live there. And he wanted to know if he could live with us at least about 3 weeks or so. A year later, he's upstairs on my little manual typewriter typing all night long, and I went up and I put a pillow underneath the thing because it was so noisy we could hear it downstairs. And I said, "What are you doing?" I'm typing term papers. Kid couldn't finish high school. If they'd had alternative high schools, he'd have been fine, but he couldn't handle school. But he was smart. He typed up 3 separate term papers, went down to the school on graduation day and sold them for $20 a piece. I found out my son was one of them.
Entrepreneur.
Kids that wouldn't graduate if they didn't turn in a term paper.
Yeah.
And he was down there on the sidewalk selling term papers.
That's brilliant.
But then we said, Ryan, you think you can find another place to live yet? And he finally moved out. But
That was a big bridge for him, though, I bet.
yeah, we had him for a year.
You just needed to keep adding rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You guys needed a
then
mansion.
We
my
did add-
sister's daughter lived with us for quite a while and went to school here. She was out of Milwaukee.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
we took in Felicia. Yeah, she was 10.
Wow.
She, her mom was having some problems. We don't know what they were, but a friend of hers called and wanted to know if we'd take Felicia. We only met her once when she was 5. She was 10. I said, okay, send her out. And they sent her out with, she was wearing red polka dots. She had on red polka dot outfit. And we met her, and of course we had to verify who we were to the stewardess because she didn't know us.
Yeah.
And we brought her home from Spokane airport and kept her for, 6 months or something?
And she was there quite a while.
Wow.
So
you
when you-
guys,
yeah.
really, that's amazing.
So you had this open door policy, it sounds like, for the most part.
Yeah.
Did
Let
you
me put it this way. She had an open door policy.
But like, that's just amazing.
Yeah,
like
it
it
is.
was
Very
meant.
She let him
selfless.
come in. All I had to do was feed him.
Yeah. Well, you did a good job, and you did a good job.
Every kid's an extra hour at work. Your 10 hours, 12 hours,
both did a
It
14
wasn't
great
hours.
job.
always easy, you know. I had a job too. I worked for 25 years at the nursing home in the activity department, but I also took all the residents to all of their doctor appointments, assisted many
gosh.
doctors and procedures I had no business assisting with, and my friend Karen Greenway, she was my boss, and for 25, she's still my best friend for 25 years, and she and I were always going to write a book about some of our adventures.
Is that
And you
Jeremy's
should.
mom?
Um,
Jeremy Greenway?
Well, there's 2 Jeremy Greenways, but there's his stepmother.
Okay.
And I remember one time we took a load to Wenatchee, and sometimes we took extra people to the appointments if the appointments were short, you know, and took them to McDonald's or to Burger King because you saw these advertisements on TV, and it just
Yeah.
was thrilling to them to get to have food from there. So we had taken Danny down to get his artificial leg fixed, and we took another lady over to get her hearing aid fixed, and we picked them both up. And as we were coming back to get Danny, we realized we were going the wrong way to pick him up for the one-way street. So we went across the road and turned around at a bank. We went the wrong way through a drive-up window at the bank. Well, as we got over to where Danny was, this guy come running by, waved at us like this, and he looked like a drawn-in black eye. And I said, boy, somebody's happy on their lunch break. So we loaded everybody up, went over to, I think it was a Burger King, and I took Martha in to go potty. Karen was ordering, and I took her back out, and I finally, as I taking her out, the car was surrounded by police. The police officers were surrounding the van, and so I went back in. A guy said, "Are you the driver of this van?" I said, "No, but I'm with her." And he said, "Well, go get her." So I went inside. She says, "Where have you been? I can't carry all this food." I said, "Karen, look out the window. There's police out there. Our van is surrounded." And so we carried all the food out, and we opened the door, and the policeman looked in at all these nursing home residents. He said, "Cancel that APB on the white van."
Thought you were robbing a bank, huh?
But I thought we'd picked him up. We were with him, yeah. And
boy.
he was called the Baseball Cap Bandit. He had been
my
over around
goodness.
Spokane in Idaho, and he'd worked his way to Wenatchee
Wow.
and had just robbed a bank.
Good
The one that
timing.
we just drove the wrong way through was next door to
Thought you were
where
an accomplice with all the senior
Yeah.
citizens.
So,
You're like, no, we're just chilling in the van.
That's hilarious.
I just needed my
but
hearing aid
I
fixed.
opened the door, and I can still hear him saying, "Cancel that APB."
On the senior citizens.
And of course, Karen took it in stride at first, but we got driving home, got as far as the dam. She pulled over and just burst into tears. She says,
Oh,
"Wow."
could have been worse, right?
That was just only one of our many adventures, but that was the funnest one.
So,
Yeah, you should make a book.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
you probably got a lot out of the stories that the retirees up there Regency.
Oh, we did. We had
Yeah.
so much fun. There was Sue Baker's father-in-law was one of them, and there was another man from Ediat, and we dressed him up on Halloween as women, put wigs on them, and they sat in the hall and laughed all day long. But they had stories to tell about fishing together in the Eniat River, and
Yeah.
I mean, just wonderful stories.
I love that.
Oh, there's so
And-
much wisdom, right? That's one of the things that this podcast hopefully is capturing. You know, all those stories. Can you imagine if you would have been able to put some of those people on
Yeah.
tape so we had that collection?
Yeah.
It's timeless.
Well, you know, the history notes at the museum has interviewed various people, and
Yeah.
we had a couple people up there, and they gave me copies of all of the history notes they had done. That, and of course, when I did a lot of reading to them, and I always tried to read those of the people, and Luella Vinneberg was one. And you ever heard that? You've
Yeah,
heard
the
that name,
Vinneberg,
haven't you?
yeah, of
Well,
course.
she was one of them, and I used to love to read her story because everybody, that's
Yeah.
our Luella.
It's amazing the generation. We talk a lot about that, but because the town was smaller, there was generational names. You know, 3, 4, 5 deep, and we're kind of losing that a little bit. And,
Yeah, we
you know,
are.
but those times, you just knew, especially at the sports, we talk about that a lot, where the grandpa played the grandpa and the dad played the dad, and there's
Yeah.
the rivalries. When you were there's a book that I read once called "The 5 Regrets of the Dying." It was written by a hospice nurse. It's an amazing book, and it talks
Yes.
about of all the people that she interviewed and
I've heard
worked
about
with.
that book.
Have you? Yeah. Did you ever kind of gain some wisdom through, like when you're kind of in a nursing home or retirement home, what they thought about those, like, over the years?
Well, I'm not sure we talked about dying a lot, but we did talk about, you know, them feeling bad because they couldn't do things anymore, and wishing they could, and loved hearing them tell stories about things they did when they were kids, and
Yeah.
and that was being in activities. You know, that was the fun part for me,
Yeah,
to be
right.
able to hear that.
They probably look forward to seeing you every day because that's something to
I don't know.
do.
I don't know.
Yeah,
But
well,
yeah,
I'm sure
I
they
loved
appreciate
loved
it.
working there as an activity director. It was
When you say you were assisting the doctors on stuff, my mom was a dentist, assistant, but there was no license. She was just, that was kind of common, I think,
I remember one time
Years ago, yeah.
years ago. Yeah.
we had a guy who he kind of had a palsy, and he needed to have a growth removed from his chin, and so Karen and I took him up to the hospital. I'm not going to say the doctor, him, but anyhow, she was holding him down on his arms and his legs, and I sat at his head and held his head in my hands. And the doctor put a cloth over the guy's head, and he started cutting. He said, "Oh my God, Nita, I forgot you." He had blood all over my hands. I said, "Just keep going. Don't stop now."
Don't stop. You're not shy.
Yeah. He said, "You better wash good when we get done." But and I saw the inside of a 90-year-old man's bladder one time. Trying to give the man dignity. He didn't want me to leave him. I sat way back by his head and held his hand, and the doctors got him checking his bladder or something was having problems. And now, come here, Anita, you need to see this. I'm not a nurse. It's good for your education. Get over here. So I had my head between that old man's knees, looking at the inside of his bladder.
Oh, fascinating.
we all get
I'm
older.
glad that was your job.
Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad.
But I did a lot of things I probably shouldn't have. But we took
Well,
him
you
on.
know what? That's life. That's the adventures of life.
Yeah, I remember I was taking a picnic one time out to the state park, and we went down where the boat launch was. And yeah, I guess it had been raining, so that's why we decided to eat in the van, and we passed out. We had all men in that van that time. And of course, Mr. Baker was in there. He and the other guy. And Karen said, "Look at that piece of driftwood. Isn't it beautiful? I'd love to have it." I said, "I'll get it for you, Karen." I took off one shoe, stepped in the creek to get it, and couldn't get back up the bank because it was a hill.
Oh.
And so I ended up soaking wet.
Went
And
swimming.
the guys laughed. It was so much fun. They thought that was the best thing. I put on a show for them. They thought I did it on purpose.
You're like, nope, I did not.
No.
That's fun. Well, that's cool. Any grandkids? What are they doing? grandkids adjacent?
We have two
Because-
grandsons that have very long hair.
Oh,
The
nice.
15-year-old,
It is
Yeah,
a tradition.
tradition.
Is it red hair still?
the red hair.
Yeah, is it red hair?
No,
Nah.
Grant was the only redhead in the bunch. Our kids had a trace of it when they were little, but
But then lost it.
So you have like 7 or 8 grandkids, don't you? Is that what you told me?
yeah.
Well, and I'm
Well,
assuming
different-
grandkid adjacent
but
too,
they're-
because you adopted so many kids for a time.
They're all step
Well-
grandchildren.
right.
Well,
you got a lot
not
of,
all of them.
You,
Well,
you got
one.
even more.
Kind of the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've kind of osmosis. Troy, being diabetic, didn't want children of his own, but his stepchildren are wonderful grandchildren to us. We
Yeah,
love them both.
exactly.
You know.
Yep.
Well, Travis and Troy they're both good dudes.
And both of my nieces, you know, my sister's children, needed a grandmother, so I just became Nana to everybody.
Yeah.
So
Was it
That's perfect.
Nana Anita or was it Auntie Anita that you
well,
were telling me?
my niece calls me Auntie, you know,
Auntie,
Jessica,
yeah.
and she teaches 3rd grade now here down at Mo.
Right.
And I go down and volunteer once a week, and we decided I would be called Miss Anita because Nesvacil is too hard for kids to remember. So they
Yeah.
were calling me Miss Anita, and she'd forget and call me Auntie. Auntie, can you do, you know?
Oh.
So 2 or 3 other kids started calling me Auntie too.
Oh, that's
So it's
cute.
kind of
I
fun.
bet that's
That's a
fun. The
perfect
third grade. I bet that's kind of
Oh yeah, neat bunch of kids, but
Yeah.
so different from when I went to school.
really.
Totally different.
Yeah.
The kids are more kids with more problems, more kids with more ADHD, more kids in today's society that
Yeah, we don't want to get into that situation. You know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a 6-year-old and 3-year-old, and they're going through that same thing. And I said, look, you know, it may be culturally it's different, but you know, if you get them outside more, and
Yep.
and less tech, and
Yep.
more get in trouble and get in the mud, and
well, we had a great grandson who
Well, what
came to see
bothers
us.
me is the schools don't teach cursive writing anymore.
Oh no,
They don't
No.
teach. They don't teach. I don't think they teach arithmetic anymore.
well
They
they
don't-
do.
I don't think they teach history anymore.
They were teaching algebra in 3rd grade.
You know, I mean,
yeah, they don't have shop. And
I about
it's-
panicked
Bill
with
used to
that.
talk about that too, to bring Bill up again. But a lot of teachers are struggling with state mandates, and it's not easy for the teachers. It's not easy. I mean, there's so much politics behind it.
Yeah.
But I just know that I watch my grandkids when they get outside, and you get them doing something else, they do great. When you try to put them in a confined location, I mean, I was a crazy kid. They would have done that to me. I'd had ADHD on steroids.
Well, we've got
You know
a lot
what I
of
mean?
kids that are addicted to iPads
Yeah.
or Kindles. We had a little great grandson that was 5, and he came in, gave me a hug. He hadn't seen me in 2 or 3 years, and he sat down on the couch, put his headphones on, and picked up his Kindle.
Yeah, it's an interesting
I said,
time.
sweetheart, we don't do that at Nana's house. I
Ah.
took the things off. I said, come on. I took him outside
Yeah.
and turned on the sprinkler. And they aren't allowed to play out in the water in the sprinkler because the water pressure, they live in Orting and the water prices are too high. They don't, you know, we never thought about it.
Right.
So Grant came home, found an old slip and slide. Those kids spent all afternoon, me
Yeah,
and his
old
big
slip and
sister,
slides.
just playing outside and standing in the water and drinking the water. And I mean, 2 days they got to play outside in the water.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
convinced.
and
I
those are
told
the special moments.
told my daughter, I tell everybody this, I think I'm going to just will it to happen. And that is, she's a doctor of audiology, and my son-in-law is a cop over in Port Townsend, Bremerton area. And I said, you have 3 years to get those kids over here. I said, one way or another, I might have to bribe you. So I'm putting a little savings account together, and knowing my kids, she's a little flamethrower. She goes, I haven't set my price yet, but you keep working on that savings account. Because those kids need to be
Yeah.
here so I can teach them, spend time with them. You know, I miss being able to
take them down to the lake and
Yeah.
just let them spend the day.
yeah,
You know?
throw them in the lake, let them learn how to swim. I'm that guy, you know. But, you know, growing up like we did, and I think it was just it was a different time for sure. You know, like when Sue was saying that she slept in the back of her car while her mom worked.
Yeah,
I mean, you
we're
wouldn't
night
you wouldn't
shifts.
get
You
away with
did.
that anymore. But things change. But yeah,
Yeah.
I bet it's fun to have that experience of third graders, and then also have the experience of working for so many years with retirees.
Yeah.
I don't think you guys are ever going to slow down. I think Grant, I think you're going to be in this shop
well, I've got
20 more years.
I'm quite a bit slower than I used to be. But I've got.
But you're not in a hurry, so it's not a big deal.
I got 6 cars to build, so I figured that'll take me minimum of 2 years a car. So I got to stay at least alive for till I'm at least 102.
Which one? What are you building? What 6 are we building here?
Well, I've got that Model A Roadster there, and then I'm working on my 57, and then I got my 40 Ford that I've got in disarray, and then I got a 34 Dodge that's in disarray. I mean.
How do you decide? Did you wake up in the morning and go, today I'm going to work on the Model T?
Well, the Model T is over here because I'm trying to get it to the point where I can get a roller out of it. Then when I get it into a roller and I get the frame jig and everything I build, so I can get the frame and all that stuff done. That's on the other side over there. I can get that all done, then I can bring the 40 frame over here and put it on the frame jig, and then I can take and put the body on this. And it just
Method to the madness.
and I putter. I don't do a lot. I putter. Where before I used to work.
Yeah.
Now I putter.
Putter's good.
That's a good thing.
And he comes home for lunch anywhere between
Yeah.
noon and 1:30, and he takes a nap till
Little siesta.
2:30 or so, and
Yeah,
comes home
I've-
anywhere at night between 6 and 8, and usually at 7:30 I'm calling him, come home.
Come for
Yeah.
dinner? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, his dinner's ready at 6.
I still
Whether he's
spend-
there or not. It's in
I,
the mic.
I eat at 6.
There
I
you
still
go.
spend probably 8-10 hours a day in here.
Well, to me, it's like a lifestyle. I don't think that I'll ever, stop working. My dad never really stopped working. I mean, he was 82 going on 52. I mean, before he had his stroke, at 82. But I just think there's something, if you're lucky enough to do something you enjoy,
Yeah.
then
I-
why retire?
yes,
Because it doesn't make sense
Exactly.
to me.
And I spent 4 years putting my highboy together. I did a frame off on that, and it's sitting over in the garage at home, all done, finished, and I think I got 20 miles on it, and it's been done for
So
a year or so.
you must have had a
75.
car at some point that you built or that you owned that you sold that you regret. Is there any
We talked
of
about
those?
that yesterday.
Well, yeah, I got a couple, 2-3 of them that I regret. My '66 Merc Cyclone, my 55 Chevy Nomad.
Nomads, we list the most.
Them are probably the 2 cars that I wish I had now. But
Did any of them just spike in value that you didn't see coming? Like you go back, now they're 40 years later, they're like worth a lot more money than.
oh, they all are. They
But
all
is there
are.
anything that was like
the
really
Nomad
crazy?
especially.
The Nomad?
I remember he used to let me drive it, and and I remember I had to go to Wenatchee to get parts for him sometimes, and I was going down to Pybus. You had to cross railroad tracks, and one of the guys working for the tracks waved at me. Come here, Lynn. I had to memorize different things about the car because these guys were always asking me. I liked it because men were calling me over to, but it was my car, not me. But I had to memorize all these things that Grant told me about it so I could tell him
There you go. That's fun.
that it was fun to drive. I
So
loved it.
when you go home, I got to ask this because I go home sometimes and I'll start talking real estate to my wife and she'll be like, she'll let me do it for a while, and then she'll be like, okay, how about the weather?
Enough's enough. huh?
Enough. Do you ever have a, hey Grant, no more 57 Chevys?
I'm
not
not
the
much.
cars.
I'm not much of a talker about stuff. I come home, we might sit there, have dinner and stuff like that, turn the television on. I watch a lot of car shows. And once in a
He
while,
talks to the TV.
and I talk to the TV, telling
You're
them
full of shit.
what a bunch of jerks they are, and that's not how you do it.
That's not worth that.
And the average person can't afford to spend that $250,000 you're showing there. And,
That's
I mean,
hilarious.
just
And I read.
You read. That's a lost art, Anita. Reading.
and she reads. But anyway, we just ad lib a little bit here and there, and that's
Yeah.
about it.
Well, that's awesome.
I love it.
So you're also involved in your church,
Yep.
and which it's
I
same
think
as
I'm the longest member of that church now. I joined when I was 12, and
Wow.
everybody else, even Marge Hayter, who's 92, came later.
which church was it? Lutheran? Which church did you go to?
Christian church,
Which one
Disciples
is
of
that?
Christ. It's by the fire station.
Oh
and,
yeah. Yeah, that's where.
It's where Janie and Roberta go.
Yeah, and
Oh,
then next
Roberta,
door.
Yep.
Yeah, next door. Went blank, but that was in that class. That's how we met her when she wanted Mark Evans's book.
Uh-huh.
She lives right by the church.
Yeah.
That's who connected us to that whole class.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah. She goes, 20 of us meet every month from 1962 or whatever.
Yeah. And of
Yeah,
course,
that church has been there
Of course,
a while.
I was in drill team with some of them. So, even though they were 3 years older than me, you knew everybody in school in those days. If you didn't know them, you knew they were somebody's sister or somebody's brother, that kind of thing. Even, my brother was 5 years older than me, and I knew most of the kids in his class, and the ones way down, you just kind of knew the family,
Yeah.
I got to ask you about this. I jump around a lot, but I'm curious. When you were in high school, and were you a gearhead in high school, in Whitefish?
I was always a gearhead.
So did you back then cruising? Were you cruising Whitefish, Montana?
Cruise?
Cruising, like cruising your cars down the main street,
Yeah.
burning rubber.
Oh yeah, cruise. Did a lot of cruising.
Yeah. Whitefish grew up too.
Oh, it's terrible. It's worse than here.
Yeah.
It's worse than here.
It's not the same. We lived there for
I
2
mean,
years.
it is not the same. My brother lives there, so we go out there.
You have two brothers that live there.
Yeah, two brothers. We go out there a couple.
It's a
of
beautiful
years.
place.
Oh, it's gorgeous. I mean, I'd love to live back there again.
Yeah.
And we talked about moving back there quite a few years ago, but I'm established here. My business is here. I made my living here, and
our kids are
and I'm
here.
one of them guys.
And that's important.
To me, it
I'm
was.
really I'm really afraid to just move because I'm used to having things, and we don't buy a lot of stuff. Don't get me wrong. We don't have new boats, and we don't have a new home, and we don't have a lot.
Yeah.
But we have a comfortable.
Yeah.
We're comfortable.
Yeah.
And so.
But like you said, your kids and
No,
grandkids, that this is their home, and
Yeah, and that was another reason, because all I've got is two brothers over there. She's got her whole family here, and I told her, I said, you can stay here and I'll move back there. You can come and visit once in a while.
Were you ever a Green Bay Packers fan?
Nope, I'm not up. I'm not into sports.
Because Wisconsin, you were originally, or is it you from Wisconsin?
I'm Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Originally, but like I say, that originality is only 1 year.
Oh yeah.
I was 1 year old when I moved out to Montana.
Yeah.
When my parents moved out there. So.
Well, what do you think this town's going to look like 20 years from now?
Well, I'm hoping that I think it's going to look just like a suburb of Seattle.
Just a lot of lights.
Kalispell and Whitefish have just about joined.
Like Chelan Manson, kind of as
Yeah,
kind of
about
joined.
like Chelan Manson, and I assume within another 20 years, Wenatchee and Chelan will be damn near together.
Yeah.
If you start looking at all the building that they're building between here and Wenatchee, another 20 years, especially when them orchards go out between here and Wenatchee.
Yeah, that farming business is tough, right?
Yeah.
It's
It's
tough.
sad to see the orchards go. My brother's orchard was where Whoville is now.
Yeah.
And I worked for him one fall checking bins. I hiked up and down that hill, lost 15 pounds that season.
Yeah, that's steep ground right there.
Yeah.
Well, another 20 years, the only orchards that are going to be around here are the big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's tough to watch the change. It's hard to manage. Managing change is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
all the big ones are going to be here, and there ain't going to be a small farmer.
I don't think so.
And like I said, they're looking at, you see them selling every damn day. The only problem I don't like about this country right here is the apple orchards have gone out, and then they brought all the winos in, or wine.
Wine vineyards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, some of those are,
There's 42 wine deals.
Yeah. There's a
in
few
it.
for
I think
sale
there was
now.
like 46 or 50.
Yeah.
Well, there might be more. The last count I saw that was in the deal was 42 of them between here and Eniat,
Manson.
Manson.
Yeah, if
one
you would have
down
told me,
under.
even when I grew up in Manson, that it would have turned into like the Bel Air of the Valley, very,
There you go.
I would have been like, what?
Yeah.
But it has, and you can't help the fact that people love it here. It's beautiful here, and if I lived in Seattle, I'd want to be here. But the politics behind it is hard.
Politics stinks.
It's hard. It's hard. Yeah. I can only bitch so much because I won't do it. So I got to be careful what I say because somebody will tell me.
You're not going to go fight the fight.
Not that I'd be elected, but I'm just not into it. So I have to work with it. It's a necessary evil, and we have developments that we're working on, and we're trying to. We have a mission to try to help essential worker housing.
Well, the average person couldn't have put that what I call Abnerville up on the hill there. The average person, the county, the state wouldn't have given no permits.
Yeah.
The way I look at
It's too narrow.
It had to take some rich person that could buy their way in. Is the way I look at it.
It was also at the time, in 2008 when the market crashed. A lot of the businesses were in deep trouble because the whole financial markets across the nation crashed. And so it was a timing issue where the city was willing to make some concessions because of that tax base.
Now, they told, they said that you could not have, if you couldn't get a fire truck up and down in an area, you couldn't put a housing development. You couldn't get a fire truck up and down that place.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, who would have guessed, right? That was.
But anyway, hey,
things change. Yeah, I love the stories.
And don't get me wrong, you're in the real estate. I know that's your bread and butter.
I know we need tourism to provide jobs for a lot of people.
Of course, now we got 320 homes going in out here by Walmart, and then we got a new coffee shop going in out of Walmart.
I saw that. They started construction.
You know why that new coffee shop is there before the homes are done.
It's funny about that. If somebody would have told my dad that somebody's going to pay $6 for a cup of coffee, he'd have just went, what the hell?
Or pay for a bottle of water.
Pay for a bottle of water. Yeah, it's amazing how fast it's changed in just our lifetime.
It is.
So different. My grandma Daisy, I talk about it all the time, came over on a covered wagon when she was 7 from, the Midwest. And, that's 2 people ago. It's my dad and then his mom. I mean, how crazy is that? Or the guy that was coming down to the Bluebird to have breakfast or dinner with his horse and tying up at the maple tree.
He moved up to the Saddle Club to live, and he'd come down for breakfast every day.
Yeah. Well, these are great stories, and you've been an iconic family.
When I was a kid, I used to tie my car up to the parking meter.
I used to be that brat downtown Lake Chelan when they put parking meters, and I had Bernice made me buy a real estate company, and so I'd go to they started giving me a lot of tickets because I was parking in front, and they didn't like that, and I was trying to cut a deal, and I was like, hey, I just need one spot so my agent that's on floor time can, when somebody walks in, this is before the internet, right, that they can get out and get in their car right away and they don't have to walk all the way back. So that was my theory. The city didn't agree with my theory. So I said,
well, what are you going to do now? Well, you're not in the area now, but.
Well, I'm here. I'm in Chelan.
Well, you're out, out there along the lake there. So what are they going to do now when our mayor wants to close off First Avenue and make it all into
open for the tourists to walk.
Open for the tourists and take away all the cars and all that.
Like
stuff.
A boardwalk?
So what a boardwalk? What are they going to?
Is that the conversation?
Where all you goddamn guys going to park then, huh? You're going to have to
She's going to build.
work.
She's in the works to put in a parking garage, Brent.
There you go. Well, the funny part of my story is the city. That was a long time ago. I was pretty young, my 20s, I think, when I bought Bernice's. So I walked in and I just thought about parking tickets because they would give me a parking ticket if I stayed there over 2 hours. And I know some of the other businesses didn't like it, but I was like, hey, wait a minute, my business is important too, and I'm spending a lot of money advertising. So, I was young. So I walked in the beginning of the year and I wrote them a $1,500 check. And I said, here you go. And they were like, what's this for? And I go, these are the parking tickets I'm about to get.
I'm not quitting.
Because my business, when I first started, there was a lot of farmers involved. And those farmers would go to coffee early in the morning, so I would go to work at 6 a.m. And so I had in that black truck, right? And I had my logo in the back, which was an Apple at the time, Frontline Real Estate. So I figured I'm the only real estate broker working at 6 a.m. That's like a billboard to me. So that's advertising. So I'm just going to pay to leave my truck there. And then they finally got pretty serious about it. And I had to back down. But, for a young guy, I thought it was pretty ingenious.
That reminds me of a story. When I was a kid, we had a town drunk called Squeaky Joe.
What a great name.
And
What a great name, Squeaky
and
Joe.
this guy was a well-educated, but he'd become an alcoholic. And anyway, the cops would always chase him off the streets. So one day we're standing in front of the club bar. That was a bar that all of us hung around.
Yeah.
And old Squeaky comes up there, and we'd always like to talk to old Squeaky. He was probably 40 years older than we are. Yeah, we were kids, and he was probably in his 60s. Let's put it that way, you know. And anyway, so old Wartnoff, the cop, city cop, was coming down the street, and old Squeaky spots him. He grabs him. He puts a nickel in the parking lot, or in the parking meter, and old Wartnoff comes up and he said, "Squeaky," he said, "I told you that you can't be loitering on the street here." And old Squeaky looks at him. He says, "I got a nickel in the parking meter." He says, "and I got an hour I can sit here."
Sleep right here, my God. That's a great story.
Old Wartnoff looked at him, kind of laughed, shook his head, and walked off.
Hey, he had a good
I
argument.
mean,
Well, that's a good story.
and I'll never forget that. I got a nickel in the parking lot.
That's a good idea. Good job, Squeaky. Creative man. Well, guys, we've been talking for like an hour and a half, I think.
Yeah.
Has it been fun? I've
For
enjoyed
a guy who wasn't going to talk, he's done most of it.
Well, he's
Proud
just
of
a
you,
No,
little
he
Grant.
did
softy.
all the talking.
I'm proud of you, Grant.
Well, I'm really thrilled. Thank you, Anita, for getting Grant to come here.
Well,
Yeah.
And thank you for letting me in your shop, which is the coolest location we've had
So
yet.
anyway, they're gonna what do you call it? Edit this anyway. Take all the year bullshit out of it. Leave me in.
All the bleep, bleep, bleeps.
And
No.
there's about 60 radiators up there if somebody wants
Yeah,
one.
we're going to do some outtakes. Let's do some
I don't
It's
outtakes.
hilarious. They're still in boxes.
I love it. Well, guys, thanks a million. Grant, appreciate your friendship. Appreciate your
And
time.
reminiscing on stories.
Yeah,
It was great.
And
Thanks.
keep my dad on the road with a tight steering wheel. So
I won't ever forget that. I mean, I remember when he coming back and said, "I can't only drive my truck anymore."
you screwed it up, Grant. All right, signing off.
I said, "Just give it a day or so. You get used to it."
Muscle memory. You'll get better at it, Dad. Well, he didn't wreck it too many times, so I still have it. So,
That's
All right.
good. That's
Well,
good you kept it in the family.
all right, we're signing off, guys. Thanks a million.